please. All right, can you hear us, Sheila?
Yes, I can.
All right, the time is now 7:05 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Reichel,
Here.
Pro Tem Hanrahan,
Here.
Trustee Britnall,
Here.
Trustee Clausen,
Here.
Trustee Flores,
Here.
Trustee Poston,
Here.
Trustee Seifert.
Here.
All right, may we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, be seated. All right, the first item on tonight's agenda is public comments. Persons desiring to make public comments on items not on the agenda, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or did we have anybody sign in here in the chambers with us? Oh, can you guys sign the sheet? You did sign the sheet? Okay. We'll check the Zoom first, see if anyone has their hands raised.
I don't show anyone with raised hands, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to non-agenda items?
No, sir, did not hear from anyone.
All right. Town Administrator, if you could read the first person on our list, please.
We have Belle and Hannah. If you could give me your last names, I'll fill it out.
Right. Last name Markham, M-A-R-K-H-A-M.
And is that,
That's for Belle.
that's for Belle, okay.
And Hannah, last name Pfaff, P-F-A-F-F.
Great, thanks.
All right. And then if you guys would like to come up, are you guys together?
Yes.
All right, if you would like to come up to the front table here, and then just state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Hannah. I live at 1617 Orchard Avenue here in Silt.
And my name is Belle Markham, and I live at 1609 Orchard in Silt. And we would like to discuss the stop sign at 16th and Orchard. We spoke to Chief Kite, and he let us know that it has been proposed before and denied. And we would really like to reiterate the importance of stop sign. Not only is there a bus stop there 2 times a day, 4 days a week, there's also soccer. There's also a very large park and a very large community of tiny humans that cross there, and the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, it's not okay.
Our street alone has about 15 kids under the age of like 10. So when we see people flying, it's kind of worrisome when I'm teaching my 3-year-old how to stop and look for cars, and people are flying through at 45 miles per hour.
Okay. We don't, during the public comments, have a dialogue back and forth, so I think traffic is something that we need to discuss as a board anyway, so if we can get an agenda item set up at a near meeting, I think it's a topic that we should at least probably spend 45 minutes to an hour on. And the rest of the board okay with having that as an agenda item in an upcoming meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
It came up, was that 2 meetings ago, that we wanted to do it.
Okay, yeah, if we could just go ahead and get that scheduled, and then that'll be publicly noticed. And you guys can come in, it'll just be a discussion item, so there really won't be an interaction with the citizens, but at least you can hear what the discussion is and maybe get some ideas of what's going on, so.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you.
Careful. Oops. All right. Any other names on the list?
Nope.
Okay.
No, you're,
All right, and then I'll just check back in, because it looked like we had quite a few people on the Zoom meeting, so do we have anyone with a hand raised for public comments at this point in time?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on, so the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which contains the minutes of the August 14th, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting, and the reappointment of Planning and Zoning Commissioners, and I will turn this over to Mayor Reichel, it says.
Oh, yes, it is.
So, does anyone want to discuss any of those separately or make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the minutes of the August 14th, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting and the reappointments of the Planning and Zoning Commissioners.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Clausen to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do any board members have any conflicts of interest with agenda items tonight?
None here, Mr.
None tonight.
I have none either. Do we have any agenda changes by staff or by the board?
No, sir.
Okay,
None here.
all right. Then the next item we have up is the Buy Local Discover Silt Aligned Multimedia Marketing Plan Review. And I will turn this over to Administrator Lehman.
Great, thanks very much. First off, I do know that it's not November 14th of last year, as my memo says. And I also wanted to point out one other error in the memo. It says the contract with the line is for $24,000 in 2024. That's not right either. That hadn't been decided yet. This is 2023. A couple of my mistakes. So we have Katie Mackley and Jason on
Jason
TV, right? I
should
think I saw
be
his name.
Zooming in, yes, he
Right.
should be.
And to give us a review of our marketing plan. So without further ado, I see you brought a guest.
I did. I brought my partner in crime, Ryan Mackley. So, hi everyone. It's so nice to see you again. We are thrilled to be here to give kind of our midway report on the marketing plan for 2023. And there's Jason. He's there as well.
Hi, everyone.
So just a reminder, and I think you all have our written kind of overview in front of you, but for everyone listening, basically, when we first started discussing working with the town of Silt on a marketing strategy, it was really the first time that the town had kind of taken a proactive stance on marketing and really wanted to look at building a foundation for marketing for the town and collecting data around building that foundation. So our 2023 objectives were establish the marketing foundation for the town of Silt, highlight why Silt is a great place to live, do business, and visit, market to two groups, the out-of-market visitor and local residents, bring awareness to the newly launched discoversilt.com website, develop a consistent and engaging social media presence that highlights various aspects of town, from supporting local businesses to beautiful imagery of the area, create a year-long Shop Local campaign by featuring different businesses each month on discoversilt.com, e-newsletters, social media posts, and paid ads throughout the year, build Town of Silt multimedia library by capturing video/drone/photo assets throughout the year to use in social media, website, and general marketing, and then create a process for evaluating analytics and data to measure a performance on website traffic, social media, and digital ad campaigns. So when we started this process, we created a timeline, which you'll see on the next page, and we worked with Jeff, Nicole, and Derek on this timeline. And our first order of business was really to do a refresh of the Discover Silt's Colorado website. We took a look at it. The overall feeling was that it was a little dark, and everyone really wanted to see it brightened up, kind of refreshed. And so we did that and launched the refreshed site in February of 2023. We also ensured that the site is ADA compliant. So that was a concern, and we made sure that that was in order. Also in February 2023, we launched the Discover Silt Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube accounts. This is part of building this foundation, was having the website to drive traffic to, then creating a social media presence to drive traffic to the website. so that we're creating, a lot of energy through the website and through social media. In March of 2023, we created a Shop Local logo. And you all, I believe, Nicole said, have a bag of goodies at your seats, and you can see the logo that we created. And we turned this into a sticker with a QR code. And this QR code takes you directly to the Shop Local page on the Discover Silt website. And these have been distributed all throughout town at local businesses, and they're being handed out so that people have them. Great on water bottles. We decided that this was a really good outreach tool to drive people to the Shop Local page on the website. The logo is also on the reusable shopping bags that you have as well. So really fun, and I know that Nicole and Jeff plan to hand those out at town events, which I think is such a great idea, especially with the 10 cents fee on bags for the town to have those out and promote. Once again, driving traffic to the Discover Silt website is just a great idea. In April 2023, we completed the Discover Silt brochure, which is also in your bag of goodies, and I think it looks great. And that's been distributed at a variety of locations in the Valley, as I understand it. Right, Jeff? You guys have kind of put those in all the places where tourism brochures live. And then in May and June of 2023, we created the first Shop Local video. And we featured the Whimsical Wagon. And I'm sure you all know, the Whimsical Wagon is an absolute gem. And Carol is amazing. She was so fun to work with. Ryan and I had such a good time going there and filming her. And so Jason is actually going to bring the video up so everyone can see what it...
If I can have permission to share, I will go ahead and play that. I think I need to be granted permission to share my screen because it's
I made
still
you
telling...
a co-host, so you should be able to do that.
Let me try it again. There we go. Okay. And that should be coming up right now for everyone.
Hi, my name is Carol Back, and I own the Whimsical Wagon in Silt, Colorado. The Whimsical Wagon is a small department store with a big heart. It's full of tons of gifts for all occasions. I carry a lot of seasonal items as well as everyday items. I started the Whimsical Wagon in 2004, so I'm in my 19th year. We thought of different areas that could possibly need a gift store, but really Silt at the time, in 04, had nothing, and we had the property. And so Silt is home to us, and it just seemed like the right place to put a gift shop. I'm really, like I said, centrally located. I draw from Rifle, Meeker, Newcastle, Glenwood, and I have even customers from Aspen and Carbondale. People say it's a hidden treasure, but I don't want it to be hidden. I want people to know it's here. It's really important for people to shop local. First of all, so that they know what's in their area. They can refer other people to their local shops. It takes their hard-earned money and it puts it back into the community. It puts it, the tax dollars, puts it into the improvements of sidewalks, etc. It just makes that money turn around and makes it a better place for them to raise their kids. So it contributes to the parks around and everything else that Silt is doing, for their community. Silt is a great place to own a business because of the community that is in this area is just amazing. I can say through COVID was where I've always had a sense of community here, but people really stepped up and they were not about to let any of the businesses go out of business. They just shopped local like crazy. And it just feels like home. It has been home for many years, but Silt is definitely one of those communities that it's a blessing being here.
So, we were just so thrilled with the way that the video turned out. And We have our next video scheduled with Wild Roots. We're working to get that on the schedule, and then there will be 2 more additional videos following that. So that it'll be a whole series that will be available on the Shop Local page on the DiscoverSiltColorado.com website. Our next step was driving traffic to the website, and we decided, Trustee Hanrahan had a wonderful idea that we should do a photo contest. And so we launched a photo contest, as I'm sure you all are aware of, and I'm going to let Jason talk a little bit about the process of creating the photo contest and then the data that we collected around the contest.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Yes, so like Katie had mentioned, one of the primary goals for the photo contest was to really promote and really start generating awareness for both the Discover Silt website as well as the Discover Silt social media profiles. And as Derek had suggested, a photo contest is a really, really good way for folks to kind of show their civic pride. It also helped us gather content, which we could use for ongoing marketing efforts as people were uploading their photos. But what we wanted to do was tap into a larger audience than we could probably reach on our own through our own email list or coordinated efforts. And so that's why we tapped into the Post-Independent. Not only did they have a platform that we could run the photo contest on, which made submission and voting very easy, we were able to tap into their subscriber base for notifications, emails, and advertising, which just helped grow the awareness and the participation of the contest exponentially. And so we decided to run that contest for a period of 41 days. The first period was broken up into about 4 weeks worth of time where people could submit their photos. And then there was about 10 days worth of votings from July 26th to August 6th. And so we were really, really curious to see what the data was going to bring back to us. And overall, I think this was a very, very big success in building the awareness of the contest, but also helping us achieve the secondary objective that we had was getting people to subscribe to the Discover Silt email subscription list. And so this is something that's entirely separate from the town's lists. This is one for people that are anywhere in the world that can subscribe to the email list, but for people to raise their hand to say, yes, please send me information from Discover Silt about events that are occurring, things to do, things to see, anything that was really kind of tourism oriented for Silt. So we needed a way to start building that list from scratch, and the photo contest really helped us do that. So when we look at the numbers, we had 47 photos that got entered into the contest. We had over 200 votes that were actually cast for the favorite photo. We had 65 of the 179 participants that either voted or submitted photos opt into the email list. And so when we look at, we only had 55 subscribers that had subscribed to the email list directly from the Discover Silt website. We more than doubled that existing population. So that in and of itself is a huge success. And that brought the total subscriber list to the Discover Silt email list to over 120 subscribers. And we're going to talk about what our next steps are with that population here in just a second. But so from an engagement standpoint and participation, everything was really, really, really good. When we look at what we saw from the social growth, we had social followers grow by over 20 for the contest period. And then what was really most impressive was the reach that we got from the social posts that both we were making to promote the contest on the Discover Silt social profile, as well as the Post-Independent posting through their own social page about the contest. But the social reach from all those posts was over 4,000 people. And so that achieved the objective we had of actually reaching a much, much larger audience by tapping into the Post-Independent's resources as well. When we look at data from Google Analytics in terms of how people interacted with the Discover Silt website, keeping in mind that all of the traffic and the contest was being run on a page hosted by the Post-Independent. So when we saw traffic come from the contest, those were people that participated in the contest, but then took a secondary action by going to the Discover Silt website. So what we saw was comparing data from the 41 days prior to the contest through the 41 days of the actual contest, we saw 421 users come to the Discover Silt website, which is up 10%, which is a very, very nice lift. And then we saw interaction. We saw 790 page views, which was up almost 9% from the 41 days prior to the contest period. And so overall, when we look at all our check marks, engagement with the website, email list growth, contest participation, and social reach, we really went 4 for 4 in all of that. So this was a very, very, very good campaign. We believe that it was a great success to really kind of get things launched off. And now we're looking to just continue that kind of momentum with the next initiatives that Katie's going to talk about on the timeline.
So then what's next? We achieved our goal of reaching people to sign up for the email newsletter, which was one of our objectives for 2023. So as Jason said, we have 120 subscribers to this email newsletter. The first one will go out. It will be the fall. We're going to do email newsletters quarterly. So the first one will be the fall newsletter. It will feature fall events, so Fall Fest, which is very exciting. And then fall tourism activities, recreational opportunities that can happen in Silt in the fall. So we're really looking forward to getting that out there, upping subscribership to the email newsletter as a component, once again, then collecting the data so that we see, is this driving traffic to the website? Is this, increasing awareness in Silt of events, activities, tourism opportunities, it's really building this foundation. So now to take that next step with the email newsletter, we are perfectly poised to do that. After that, Jason, did you have anything you wanted to add about the email newsletter?
Not at this time. We are going through the process of perhaps looking to see if we can go ahead and develop the segment through the town's platform. But that is still to be determined. So I'm still investigating some of those options there, but nothing else at this time regarding the newsletter.
Okay. So we've created an events page that it's very close to being launched on the Discover Silt website, and this will be where people go to find out about all of the things that are happening in Silt. It doesn't exist right now on the Discover Silt website, so we're just waiting on some approval here and some photos, and then we'll get that launched so that people will have a place to go to find out about Fall Fest, to find out about your holiday activities, the tree lighting, sitting with Santa, things like that. It'll be, we'll take them right there through the newsletter so they can go and find out all of the information they need to know and patronize your local businesses, increasing the Shop Local awareness campaign as well. As I mentioned, in October, in September, we'll do the second Shop Local video with Wild Roots. In October, we will do another Shop Local video, and then in November or December, the 4th installment. We haven't decided exactly. We're working with Nicole on which 2 businesses will be featured in the 3rd and 4th videos. And then the second Discover Silt newsletter will launch in November for the holiday season. The other things that we will be focusing on is beginning an educational and persuasive campaign around the effects on sales tax through the Shop Local campaign. So really kind of dialing in and getting that data to find out what does work, what are people responsive to? Do they watch the videos? Then do we see, them understanding, as Jeff, always says, yes, shop at your local businesses, and if you can't find what you need locally, please shop online. Those tax dollars come back to the Silt community and provide, all of the amenities that the residents love. We will also integrate the subscriber list growth tactics with the existing Town of Silt staff and resources at events and other public-facing touch points. So that's where, you all come in to really promote this when you're out at events as well. Really talking about the Discover Silt website, encouraging people to go post on social their pictures, this is what our pictures from Fall Fest are, this is what our pictures from Sitting with Santa are, and creating that momentum. And you all can absolutely be a very integral part of that so that we really start building that energy. And collecting that data to know what's working and what's not. Anything to add, Jason?
No, I think that's a good summary. I mean, that's exactly what we're setting out to do with the plan. And so the first I think big initiative is a success. We're over that hurdle, and now it's time to keep pushing forward.
And I would just really love to thank Jeff and Nicole and Derek for their participation and their partnership in this. They've been wonderful to work with. We've just really enjoyed, kind of brainstorming what comes next. And also a big thank you to Carol Back, who, as I said, she is just such a wonderful asset to the community of Silt, and we really appreciate, her willingness to participate. So, do you all have any questions for us?
Why is everyone looking at me?
Because you'll have questions.
I have
you
three.
might understand those numbers.
The first one is technical. Jason, is GA4 done on the site?
Yeah, that was completed in advance of the July 1st deadline. Yep, that is up and running.
Okay, must be my instance that's outdated then. Second question, do we have a social media schedule for the rest of the year?
We do not have it planned out as of yet.
Is there a plan to build a
Yes,
social
absolutely.
media schedule for the rest of the year?
Yes,
Yes.
No, absolutely. So that will correspond with what we're doing from the newsletter standpoint. It will piggyback what we're doing from the event promotion standpoint,
Right.
as well as in conjunction with the shop local and the sales tax initiatives going forward. Yes.
Okay, but that'll, presumably the social media will be at the front end of those initiatives.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And last question, the events calendar, will that include sports? Is there a crossover opportunity there, or is that not a concern? Do we want to keep them separated out?
I think our thought on this is purely a kind of tourism of, activities-based events page. And I would be reluctant to put sports in there as well, because I feel like that's already on the town website.
Sure.
And, we can certainly have that conversation, but this is really kind of driving energy towards that, everyone come out for Fall Fest. And, not only if you live in Silt, but if you live in Rifle or you live in Newcastle, come for Fall Fest, and really having it be that hub for activities and recreation.
Makes sense to me. And we're not having enrollment or participation challenges with the sports, so there's no need to expand the net.
We are not.
Then just forget that question. That's all I had. Thank you guys for all your hard work.
Oh, well, it really has been a
And
pleasure.
these numbers are good. They're on a small basis, but traditionally marketing campaigns don't see those sorts of upticks. So these are good numbers. I'm very pleased.
Thank you.
That's rare.
So I'm not a social media technology guy, but I do know on social media, if you're not posting something new daily, you disappear to the back. People want to see something new coming every day. So when we say that we're doing social media, like, does the town of Silt have a Facebook page? Are we Twittering? Like, what are we?
X now, it's not Twitter.
What are we
We'd
doing?
be Xing.
They changed the name to X.
Jason, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. So what we are in charge of are the profiles that have been set up for the Discover Silt side of things. So this will be more of the tourism tentpole event driven content that we're putting out there. Events, town scenery, things of that nature. And so that is the Discover Silt Facebook page, Discover Silt Instagram, as well as Discover Silt YouTube. So those are the three channels that we're responsible for. And what we have initially set out to do from a frequency standpoint is at minimum 1 to 2 posts per week that are getting some type of information out there about the Discover Silt side. So that, like we had mentioned earlier, this next leg will all be focusing on events and the Shop Local initiative.
And once you establish this presence, yes, if you can post every day, that is certainly beneficial, but it really isn't absolutely necessary in terms of what we're trying to do. If we can create this presence, then people will know to look, on a weekly basis and see, oh, this is what's coming on Facebook and Instagram from Discover Silt, that they'll know to look for that. And really building this kind of organic presence then leads us into the next realm, which is if at any point you decide you want to do any kind of digital advertising for those events, Facebook advertising, we've set up this organic social presence that will complement that, and it can be very, very successful.
Does that sound good?
You basically asked the same question as me, though. That was good. Social media schedule is exactly right.
I got that, but I didn't know how frequent. Yeah, okay.
Well, and that's the thing is, like with the social media, from what I understand of it, like with the Instagram posts, if people subscribe, we get people to subscribe to it, then when there's an event coming up, you guys post stuff, they see that right away. It's just those digital reminders versus waiting for a radio ad or something like that.
Okay. I just know whenever I look at something on Facebook that it's old. Like the event that it's showing me, not necessarily for the town of Silt, but for whatever it is. The event was 3 weeks ago, and that's their newest post. Like,
Right.
That's the Amazon model where they advertise to you the pair of shoes you bought last night. It's a universal problem with e-commerce.
Okay.
It absolutely is. Social media hasn't solved it either.
so I just want to make sure that that's not
No, we will absolutely be ahead of the curve.
ahead of the curve. Okay. All right.
Please come out to the event we had last week.
I mean, there's a horseshoe track this weekend, right?
A bunch of people standing in Veterans Park.
Yeah, exactly. So, awesome.
Yeah. And then it's not necessarily a question, but I intentionally haven't signed up for this because I'm trying to see what I can hear about it from not doing it. And yeah, when you guys launched the discover.com website, I mean, I saw a lot about that. And then it just kind of disappeared. But then when you did the photo contest, all of a sudden I saw a lot about that. So I was just trying to do it from a different perspective, just to see if me or anybody else who's not necessarily following social media all the time, picks up and sees what you guys are trying to do.
And that's what we're hoping, is that every time we have these opportunities, we capture new subscribers, new, friends on social media, so that people are engaged on a regular basis then. And I think the newsletter is going to be a really wonderful way to capture that as well, really, getting that subscribership and people really looking forward to seeing, this is what, we have to look forward to in the fall. Here are the events, and ideally, obviously, that we're getting subscribership outside of the town itself, so that people are, thinking, oh, well, I can absolutely come paddleboard on Harvey Gap in September. That's amazing and lovely. So, things like that.
And then the only other question I have is, do we have stacks of these stickers at local businesses?
You do.
Okay.
I was just in Wild Coffee today, and there was this lovely stack of them right there. So I believe they are at most local businesses.
And they've already run out of one stack.
That's good, because I will say, this is the best feeling sticker to hold in your hand. It's got some weight to it. It's like, it's substantial. So if you have a chance to pick one of those up, if you're listening, grab one.
I found them at 2 different stores, or 2 different locations this weekend.
Nice.
So yeah, it's out there.
Okay. Sounds like you guys are doing well.
Well, thank you. Like I
Thank
said, it's
you.
our pleasure.
All right.
And-
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for your help.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
You're very welcome. Take care, everyone.
I'm going to sit here and pet
Now
the
for the
sticker.
fun.
I know, exactly.
It's like a stress ball in this
All right.
fidget spinner.
Next item on the agenda is the water plant update, loan news, rate study, construction cost trends, timeline, with Jim Mann, Toby Reed, Trey Fauner, and Jeff Lehman, and I will turn this over to Jeff.
Perfect, thank you very much. We haven't talked a whole lot about the water treatment plant lately, have we? But that doesn't mean that there hasn't been lots of activity, and I aim tonight to talk a little bit about it. By the way, tonight is not decision night, but decision night is fast approaching. So September 11th is our next meeting. So tonight is kind of I wouldn't say a dress rehearsal, because I don't want to set myself up like that, but we do hope to provide as much information to you tonight as possible. that you will likely hear again next time in order for you to make the decision to move forward with this project. And since you all have been so very much involved in this process, none of this is going to sound very new, at least the first part of this. But since we may have some folks who are new to the discussion, I do want to just do a quick outline of where we've been and where we are, or where we've been, I guess I should say, and then we'll get into where we are. And then I'll provide a short outline of tonight's presentation. We've got a whole crew of people here who, some of whom are going to talk. They're planning to talk, and some of whom may just pipe in because we need a clarification on something. Obviously, the purpose of this item tonight is to update the board and the community regarding the process of of building and financing the improvements to the silt water treatment plant. As you all know, and we put out in a newsletter to the community on Friday night, we were successful with the state revolving fund in getting not only a loan for the project, but also some loan principal forgiveness, a significant amount of principal forgiveness. So I will talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But as you know, since about mid-2020, we've been working to find the best path forward to provide Silt citizens with a pre-treatment option for the water treatment plant. Dewberry came on board in 2022 and has led the town in the process of preparing us by doing a master plan and then working with our staff and with you all in educating folks and really helping us prepare and apply for loans, grants, and all the different things that we need to make this happen. Dewberry specifically wrote the project needs analysis, assessment that was required by the state in order for us to even become eligible to apply for grants or loans, and then the principal forgiveness, which we have now been successful in getting some of. And also for the low interest loans that we received as well. As that process wound down, we went into the process of hiring our CMAR, that is our construction manager at risk, Garney Construction. We brought them on board this year, and their role is to work hand in hand with us and with Dewberry in identifying ways to reduce the cost of construction as we move forward with this. You'll recall that we applied to the state revolving fund by the deadline of June 15th earlier this year, and that was for the loan, and we went to I went to Steamboat Springs. Some of us were on Zoom on Wednesday of last week, where we the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority, which is another name for the SRF, and they have a lot of names, but they did vote to approve our $28 million grant for this project. And I'll go into some more detail on that in a minute. Another piece of information that you all need to know is that Garney and Dewberry led a 90% design and engineering completion workshop on August 2nd. And the idea being that the professionals in that group would swap information and use that as they move forward to try to identify subcontractors and what those prices are going to be when they finally submit those. And Toby's here tonight, so he can talk in a little more detail about that. Garney will present a guaranteed maximum price to the board at its September 11th meeting. It actually will submit that information to the town on September 8th, which is that Friday night. And if anybody wants to get a preview, I'm happy to provide that to you. As we move forward with the project, a couple of things that the town is going to be required to pass resolutions on next time, on September 11th, is we'll need to adopt the rate study that has been prepared. You won't have to adopt it as in make it start that next, day. You don't have to start collecting right away, but you do have to adopt the rate study. You'll need to accept the construction contract. You'll need to retain bond counsel and approve the loan agreement from the state revolving fund. And there may be a couple of other things too that we don't have in the pipeline yet. So we'll present those resolutions and any final information prior to the board being presented with that information before your opportunity to vote on this on September 11th. So tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about the loan application. Jim Mann is on tap to talk about the rate study and where we are with the estimate of average monthly water rates. Toby Reed is here to talk about the construction cost trends. He's not going to have, unless he surprises us all and has real costs yet. But we are working on that. And then I'll talk about the timeline. I don't know what the difference is between a schedule and a timeline, but it says it right here, so I'm going to talk about both those things. And then we'll, before that, I'm going to talk about the budget. And I think, Jim, we have the PowerPoint. We could probably go ahead and start that. Actually, I don't know why I'm looking at you. It's probably Amy or Sheila that can kind of skip toward that the PowerPoint, and I can start talking about that a little bit. But the bottom line is that our project is $28 million. I'll have to look at that. Could you skip to the next? Wait a minute, I have it somewhere. So pay no attention to that project total. It's a little off. It's actually 28,027 million, I think, is where we are today. And our principal forgiveness, I guess this isn't going to track exactly with the slides, but our principal forgiveness is now at 8.645 million. So that includes $5 million of loan forgiveness, principal forgiveness on the base project, and $2 million of forgiveness, principal forgiveness, because we were approved by this same group in June as a disadvantaged community, and so that extra $2 million goes to us for that, which comes to 7. And then we approached them on the emerging contaminants funding source, and that was, if we were found to qualify for that, it was an automatic $500,000. I'm told by some of the folks at the state that because of the work that Dewberry and Tony Zancanella did in documenting the need for that particular grant, you can see that it more than tripled. So we were able to get another 1.145 million added to that. So that brings us a grand total of 8.645 in principal forgiveness. We've got a grant of $450,000 from FMLD, and we've got an additional grant of $300,000 which you're going to be approving. After this conversation, we're going to ask you to approve what is basically a loan and immediate loan forgiveness of $300,000. So that leaves our total loan request at 18.605 million. And again, Jim will talk a little bit about what that means to us here in a little bit. A couple things going on here. There's two different loan programs. One is the leveraged loan. All right, let me back up. The one is the direct loan, where the SRF just basically takes money out of their pockets, gives it to us. It's a revolving loan. We pay it back. They have a lot of control over how that money is spent. They're limited to $3 million on that. They gave us all $3 million, and they gave us probably at least a 2% discount on the interest at 1%, a 20-year loan on $3 million. The leveraged loan is what the rest of that money, or $15 million. They're going to loan that to us based on what they can sell the bonds for. So we go through a process by which they write up some paperwork. One of those things is called a preliminary official statement, which comes up in October. And then they start shopping the bonds in November. And whatever they sell those bonds for is what we end up paying within a couple points. And right now they're telling us that they think that's going to be around 3.5%. In talking to them, Jim Mann and I believe they're probably being pretty conservative with that. Hopefully they'll be better than that. So I'll let Jim talk about rates, but one of the things I wanted to touch base on, because it is an important topic, is the congressionally directed spending. As we've reported, Senators Bennett and Hickenlooper both, they collaborated to put together a $2.053 million earmark for the project in the appropriations bill for 2024. And Representative Boebert added a $1.75 million earmark in the House appropriations bill. Now, that all sounds like great news. There are lots of conflicts with it, not the least of which, and the only one that really counts at this point, is if the Congress can't pass a budget, then the earmarks aren't worth the paper they've printed them on. They would need to pass a budget, and again, information's a little sketchy. I've been told October 1st, which is when their fiscal year starts, or I've heard December 31st, which is when the Congress has agreed that they will pass a budget, or they're going to take a 1% across-the-board penalty. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but that's a big penalty. So it's possible that maybe that would spur them to action, because I don't know where the 1% comes from. There are some other issues around the SRF funds, and I included a memo from the staff from the Colorado Water Resources and Power Authority board, or from their staff to their board, and you can see that there's a lot of it was based actually on a conversation they had about silt, although it's not unique to silt, because there are obviously other towns and water projects, wastewater projects, that probably have some CDS money attached to them. But there is some I don't even know what the right word is, but there's decisions to be made by their board as to how they're going to handle CDS spending. One of the biggest things, one of the biggest challenges we would have accepting that money is that it's administered through the EPA. And in our conversations with the EPA, we have learned that the biggest, well, one of the biggest stumbling blocks is that they don't accept the CMAR process. But the SRF encourages the CMAR process. That is a pretty good example of the conflicts between the two. And if you lay the processes side by side, they're almost exactly opposite. And so if we were going to take that money with the way it's set up today, we might have to push a pause button and start over. I don't know the answers to that. I'm not willing to really try to waste a lot of brain power on it right now because we don't even know if it's going to happen. And I'm kind of advising sort of a wait and see approach to see if Congress does their thing. And then we'll have to, we would have to sit down with the SRF folks and try to figure out what their policies are and how we all work together to make it work. I would hate to see bureaucracy, as you would, hate to see that kind of bureaucracy keep us from moving forward with the project, but it could happen. I guess my thoughts today, and Jim I think would echo this, is that this is a bird in the hand versus two in the bush scenario. We've got $9 million or $8.6 million that is ready to go. And if we're waiting on something that we don't even know about, I'm not sure that's the best alternative, although you guys would certainly have some other thoughts on that. I think, well, I had another thought, but it left my mind, so I'll come back to it if I think of it. But Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about the borrowing that we're contemplating and how we're going to pay for it?
Sure, thanks, Jeff. As Jeff explained, you've got a project expense of $25,627,000. That's kind of the 60% number that you've been handed. We are in a position where shortly we should receive the 90% number. We don't know exactly what that's going to be. We'll hope that it's actually less than what the 60% number was. With the various design contracts, the CMAR contract, as well as anticipated construction management, we add approximately $2.4 million back into the cost to cover those items. So we end up at that $28,027,000 for a total project cost. And then we back out the $9,395,000 of principal forgiveness and other grants that the town has been able to secure. We end up needing to finance approximately $18,600,000 worth of project. As we boil that through the combination of the direct loan, which as Jeff indicated was $3 million, the remaining falls into what they call a leveraged loan. And through the program, whatever interest rate the bonds are sold at, you as the town end up paying 80% of that interest rate. So just as an example, if it was a 5%, and I'm not saying this is what it's going to be, if it was a 5% interest rate, you would end up paying a 4% interest rate on those borrowed funds. When we look at where interest rates are currently in the market, the state is still, the SRF is still kind of estimating on the high side 3.5%. If I look at interest rates today and extrapolate based upon what they sold bonds for the last time they went out and issued debt, we would probably end up in about a 3.1 to 3.2 range in terms of what the interest rate is going to be. But again, we won't know that until the bonds are actually sold in either late October or November. But we anticipate that you'll end up financing through a bond issue to fund everything about $17,465,000 between the direct and the leveraged loans. If you go and we boil that all down, plug it into the model in terms of the cash flow, and if we go to the next couple of slides, we can skip the next one. We were back in June anticipating that the average user, and if you recall, the average user uses about 3,800 gallons of water a month. We thought the estimate was about $114 a month that the average customer would pay. We've done not only been able to reduce the borrowing because you've been able to get additional grant and principal forgiveness funds, but we also took a deeper dive into the operations and maintenance costs. And we've been able to boil this down and bring it down to about $105, $106 a month for the average customer. So everything has moved really in the right direction in terms of where we think the average customer is going to have to be burdened with in terms of an increase. So that, and if we go to the next slide or the next page, how we've boiled that down is your current rates. If you recall, the first 2,000 gallons are $52.65. The next 4,000 gallons are charged out at $1 a gallon. And then next 4,002, next 4,000 after that, 3.34. Next 4.66, and the anything over 18,000 is 6.66 for those gallons. The structure that we put in place, or we've kind of come to at this point, is that we're leaving all the tiering the same for the discussion purposes right now, but the base would be $95. And then you would have the 5 tiers at $6, $6.75, $7.50, $8.25, and $9 for each of those tiers, which gets you to that $105.77 a month for that average user, which again is about 3,800 gallons a month. And just kind of again. You've heard it from me before, but for those in the audience that perhaps haven't heard all our discussions along the way, the proposed tiering structure is pretty, it's middle of the road in terms of what other communities are charging for their volumetric pieces of their rate structure. The impact. Right now, the average user is paying about $54.50. So we're looking at almost doubling that to get to the 105. So it's a $51.35 increase, or a 94% increase. And that covers all the costs associated with not only building and operating the new water treatment plant, but it also provides annual dollars for undertaking water main replacement throughout the town and other capital improvements, et cetera. And then also make sure that the utility is financially sound and that it's generating enough cash so that on an annual basis, you're not having to have any outside resources come in to cover the water utility operations and debt payments. And with that, I don't know, Jeff, if you want to take that last page, or you want me to run through that real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim. I'll jump in if.
So basically where we are right now is that this is just kind of continuing the step forward. As Jeff said, there isn't a decision that needs to be made this evening. We'll take feedback, we'll take questions, we'll take suggestions. But basically, we're marching towards that September 11 date where basically it's the final go, no-go decision in terms of moving forward with the issuance of debt. There's a couple of outstanding items, and I think we can kind of flesh our way through. We have some ideas on these, but all along there's been a discussion of how we can bring the rates down even further, and that might include use of some of the town's cash reserves. The water utility did receive for a boring project $750,000 grant that offset about $1.5 million of expense. So there's an additional $750,000 that you could further reduce the borrowing. But we also have a couple of items that we're going to look to the folks at the SRF that we're going to try to work with them to kind of bring some of the costs down a little bit. We would like to wrap the debt around your existing debt so that basically you'll have equal payments throughout, as opposed to have a bit of a spike over the last couple of years of the existing debt obligations that the water and the sewer utility have. That will bring, it's not a significant impact, but it's still, every penny counts in terms of reducing that impact. So, and just for your edification, if we use the whole $750,000 and did the wrapping, we're talking about reducing the rates by about another $1. It's not, a huge amount, but every dollar counts. And, I think, the town staff, we've heard loud and clear that you've asked us to, skinny this up in terms of the impact to the average ratepayer as much as we possibly can. And I think, if you remember almost a year ago when we really started talking about this, we were north of $150 a month, and now we're down to a little over, $105 a month for the average user. So I think at the end of the day, we've been able to get this down into a much more manageable impact. Even though it's still a painful impact, it's much more manageable than we once thought it was going to be.
Hey, Jim, this is Mayor Reichel. I do have one question in regards to rates. What was the rate we needed to be at currently for our water plant to be operating properly? Because right now we're operating at a loss.
Correct. So after we took a deeper dive into the operations and maintenance costs, we recalculated that number, and you would be in roughly in the $80-$85 range for what you would need to be at to cover all your costs and make your debt payments and produce enough dollars that you're able to continue with main replacement.
Okay. I don't know how many people from the public are listening, but that's an important number to put in the back of your head during all this discussions, is the fact that our current water plant is operating at a loss every year, being supplemented by our wastewater. So looking at that 80 or 85 to 105 is really the number that we need to be looking at as a citizen. I know it's a horrible number to look at when you're paying 50 jumping to 105, but the realization that we need to be at 80 to 85 jumping to 105, is easier to stomach.
The cost of the new water plant is only adding about $30 to $35 versus what seems like is doubling it.
Doubling it, yeah.
25.
25.
So,
yeah.
And just to clarify, this 105 covers that.
Yes, that's
Okay.
that's for the
water plant
average
and running the
user,
plant,
okay.
sustaining itself versus
Sustaining itself,
borrowing from. Because we can't afford to keep having it run from the wastewater, because the wastewater plant is going to have needs in the future as well.
Its own money anyway, yeah.
So I do have a question, was brought up to me. I said I would ask if it's even possible. It was at one of the senior luncheons. most of them understand the rate is coming. They have no quarrels with that. The question was, going into most of them fixed incomes, whatever, is this a rate that could be done in 2 steps? I'm just throwing, like one now and the other one in 6 months. They have their half. I said I'd ask, because a lot of them are on fixed. They have no quarrels with the whole thing, but, is it something that can be done in 2 steps? Going into winter with the energy bills and usually after the first of the year, you're going to get a raise in your Social Security or your pensions or whatever. And I said, I would ask, is it something we have to do in 1 step or can it be? And most of them had no quarrels. Like I say, they expected it. And most of them didn't really care if it was only 6 months. But I mean, so I thought I'd throw it out there. I'd ask.
Jim, you want to take that?
Sure. That's a great question, and it's a great idea, and it's something we are exploring with the SRF as to when the rates will. I mean, you have to adopt that you're going to increase the rates. The question is, and the question that we're asking the SRF is, when do we absolutely have to implement those rates? A lot of that is going to be dependent upon the amortization schedule that we end up with the bonds. If we can, delay or defer principal for a year, that would help us be in a position where we could do exactly what you just suggested, or the question that you received was, could we step into the rates where, we increase the rates to X, what they are now plus X, and then 6 months after that, or even a year after that, it's the rates plus X plus Y to get us to where we need to be. But that is definitely something that we have been continually talking with the SRF on, so that we don't necessarily have to do the big increase all in one shot. And I will, I just want to clarify that we have not modified any of the existing structural rules that the town currently has regarding senior citizens and paying a lower base rate. Those rules would all remain in place. So it's not that everyone will jump to this. The average user, if you're an average user and you're a senior, you're going to pay less.
So is that something we would know by September 11th then, I guess, because if we're going to vote the rate?
That's our hope, yes.
Okay. Thought I'd ask.
No, that's a good question. I mean, even if we could wait till, 1st of January to do it too, or some.
Because I mean, some of that was from the previous, that's what I'm getting. I mean, some of that
It would make sense to-
was not because of the new plant, so.
Almost like raise it to the 85 now, and then raise the additional when that stuff all happens, or something like that.
Yeah,
'Cause it just gives you time to start adjusting.
Well,
your budget,
yeah,
time to do it
adjust,
all at once.
especially on fixed income, and it isn't, like I say, after the first of the years when you start getting, your rates on whether Social Security or pensions or whatever, and I would give them time to buy, maybe 30 now and then the rest of it next year or something. Even most of them didn't care if it was just 6 months, but, and I said, well, I would bring it up, I didn't even know if it was possible, so.
If we could, let's get Toby up and talk about construction cost trends. Would that be okay?
Yep.
Just one quick thing on the rates. If we could, at the next presentation, have the rates of our neighboring towns. Because we keep bringing it up in these meetings that, it's it's less than the neighbors are paying, but I would like to actually be able to give a number of what.
Yeah, I would actually have liked all that information tonight. We're getting, on September 8th, we're getting all the information we need to make a decision 3 days later. I mean, we don't even have time to chew on it before we, like I said, the used car salesman, buy now, it's on fire, put it out. It's like we keep coming to that. Why?
Well, that's why we're meeting tonight and giving you as much information as we possibly can, because we're sensitive to that, Sam. We really,
We've been getting a lot of
we didn't want to wait till
evolving
the
information.
11th.
It's just
Not
evolving.
like it's brand new.
It seems like we are though from the 8th to 11th. But I mean,
Well,
these are the discussions I thought we could have now.
Well, I can speak to that right off the bat. The state actually gave us a deadline, and that's what we're trying to hit. Working with Dewberry, they've really gone above and beyond to get us the documents we need to send out a good proposal, or a good request for proposal to subs and vendors. And we're pushing our people as well. It's a lot tighter bid period than we want, but it's gonna get us a lot closer. So the used car salesman mentality, yeah, that's a circumstance. That the state gave us a date, and we've had to back into that. But with that, and I think Jeff can probably speak to this a little better, we're going to still continue to refine the pricing up until, is it August 6th or September 29th? There's 2 dates in there.
September 29th.
Okay, where we can actually lower the cost even more, okay?
And there's probably some wiggle room on that.
Yes.
But they do their preliminary official statement on October 6th, and so that's...
Yeah, so it's before they sell the bonds. So we're gonna continue to refine the price, because there's some pricing we're gonna struggle to get from vendors. And the reason is, Jeff spoke about it a little bit ago. The EPA doesn't recognize this delivery method, but SRF embraces it. So the rules set by the EPA tell us as the issuing contractor that we have to give a wage rate determination with our bid 10 days before our bid. We can't do that because this bid isn't going to be, this isn't the final number. So we're going to pick that date, and it's probably going to be before the September 29th, but a couple of weeks to refine the pricing even further. So this is just to get us as close as we can. I can tell you with responses we've got, electrical, concrete, metal buildings, the big ticket items, that's really the numbers we want as certain as we can, as certain as we can get. So going back to when we were issued the 90% documents in late July, we did a good review. We got some great feedback from the city, from Trey's folks. We came up with a few different options where if we start creeping up dollar-wise, we've identified a few specific processes we could yank, or hold off as a contingency, or just set a straight-up budget where we can just cut it right off the bat. So since then, we put out an RFP, request for proposals for vendors. We went out to Western Slope contractors. We went out to our typical database of larger equipment, which is the ballasted flock units, the filter units, the blowers, pumps, things like that. All competitive pricing. So everybody's just, I put out addendum number 4 today, right before I came here, which is the final addendum. So far about 800 pages of changes. So Dewberry's been really responsive. We're getting this stuff out to this documentation out to the vendors and the subcontractors as quickly as we can to give them, a good feeling that we're serious. We're moving forward with this. So one of the misconceptions when you put out a 90% set of documents is, we're just budgeting. But we're not budgeting. We're going to get as right as we can with our pricing. So, and the trends are, they're not rising. So just looking at some of the costs we've had from recent bid jobs, it's probably 2.5% less, that's a good trend since we've been going up for the last 2 years. So it's a good trend to see. So, any questions?
No, that answers my question. When I bring up these topics, it's because I don't take this decision lightly. I've lost sleep over making this decision for the community and what they can and can't afford. Earlier in our conversations, we talked about raising tap fees to help with some of this, but I understand you can't count on future tap fees to take down this number, but how would those tap fees in the future help this situation, if at all?
I'll let Jim speak to that in more detail, but we are relying on tap fees to pay a significant portion of this. And we see some development on the horizon, as you know. And so we're, so long as we
have the water to allow them to do it.
Those things happen, yeah, exactly. Then we will realize those goals. But Jim, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing I would add is, we do plan on utilizing tap fees rather significantly going forward. We, based upon where we are right now, tap fees, I think you guys increased them this past year to $10,500. They would need to go to just over $12,000 based upon where we are in terms of the project cost and the needs of the utility itself. That's kind of our recommendation. So we would still be recommending that you increase those tap fees a little bit further so that those folks that are coming in are really paying their fair share of the cost of the infrastructure.
Jim, this is Mike Sawyer. Does your $105 a month rate include assumptions about a certain number of tap fees coming in and being available to pay debt service?
It does. We anticipate in the early years, based upon the population growth projections that were included in the master plan for the water plant or for the water utility, in the early years, we anticipate about 60 units a year. That increases over time to, I think, closer to 80 when you get out towards the 20-year mark.
Okay, it's important to know, and tap fees coming in, I mean, they can be a generally reliable source of income to help pay the debt service component of things. But when you execute the loan agreement and the bonding agreement, you will issue or you'll execute what's called a rate covenant. And that rate covenant essentially says if your financial projections of how many tap fees you're going to collect in a particular year are off, and you don't have a fund balance to kind of float that from year to year, you would have to raise rates to cover the difference.
Correct.
I do have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So this whole CMAR process, construction manager at risk. But then when you dig into it, that risk is just kind of a letter in that, because you guys always have the opportunity to fall under unforeseen circumstances and get out from underneath that risk. So in your company's history, how often on projects do you run into unforeseen circumstances, and do you have a dollar value, maybe a percentage on each project, what that potentially runs?
Great question. Every project has unforeseen circumstances. The delivery method of CMAR allows for contingencies. So we will set a contingency based on the type of project, the dollar value of project, a lot of circumstances. It could be how much we're going to dig into the existing plant. Are we going to find asbestos hidden? Some things we're going to do our due diligence and look at first. But all those components are going to go into setting a budget for a contingency. So with regards to the company, our company's doing between 80 and 85%, all alternative delivery, which is CMAR, Progressive Design Build, CMAR Design Build. And every project has a contingency budget. And every budget or every project is going to go into it. It's our philosophy. We're going to bring it in on schedule and under budget. If that budget is, we're going to make sure it's covered. Okay, we're going to make sure those unforeseen circumstances are covered. So there's going to be change orders within the project. We're gonna uncover a pipe that is going to be in a better place. So there's going to be a credit. We're going to uncover a pipe that's going to be in the wrong place. There will be more fittings. So there'll be gives and takes. So it all works within the number.
So the number you give us on the 8th,
Yes.
September 8th, has that contingency built into it.
Yes.
So we shouldn't anticipate $28 million and you coming and saying, I need $2 more million because we found a pipe in the wrong hole. I mean, the contingency is built into that.
Yes.
That you're coming to us. So,
yes. And we're going to use our experience, Trey's knowledge of the plant, his people, to help us understand where everything is. There's always going to be something that, there may be some funds come available and the town wants to use a different style of paint, right? I don't know why that came to mind. I don't like paint, but it's going to cost more money. That's going to be a cost to the city. So that'll be a true change order.
Trey. Huh? You don't get that paint.
I don't know why that was the first thing that came to my mind.
No, it's one thing I've got to know from knowing the mayor, the time we work together on this stuff is, if it's fluff stuff that we don't have to have,
sure,
don't do it. We don't need it.
There's not a lot of fluff in this building. It's going to be
there's not.
A building that's going to house.
We don't need stylized arches and pretty stuff. We need a functional plant.
It's going to look good only because that's just what it is. It's not going to. It's not going to be.
It's not a box. It's a broken up roof line.
Yeah. Right. But it's not anything fancy.
Okay, so do we have architectural plans at this point in time that
yes
that we could see? I mean, it doesn't have to be right now, but
I got a set on my desk if you want to see what the outside of the building looks like.
I do.
Sure, yes,
Okay.
yes.
To tell you the truth,
Thank you, Trey.
I do. Because I am. I mean, he said the arches, I think schools waste millions of dollars on pretty little walkways.
Sure.
Your kids go past that into the school, let's learn, cut that building off, save the citizens a bunch of money.
I can tell you, we sat in here and we've had several meetings. I think it's even still on the agenda about how to get snow off of a short piece of roof efficiently and
safely.
That's my pet peeve. They get tired of talking to me about that. I say, I know we can do that cheaper.
Yeah. And then I guess at the September 8th, will we have equipment manufacturers that we anticipate using?
yes.
'Cause that's a big problem with the plant we have now. It was sold as the greatest up and coming thing. Right after that, company's gone, parts aren't available. So I would like to know the companies so we can research
Yes.
them. I mean, I've spent time researching your company as I have your tab pulled up here. This is a decision I also do not take lightly. I think there is a great deal of our population that $105 a month is going to greatly affect their personal lifestyle. So yeah, the every penny counts things. To me, every $1 million counts. So
The north elevation is what you will see from the interstate as you go by.
that's where I look at it and go, do we need those windows up high?
That is to help lighting.
Yeah,
It
exactly. So
actually
you can
does
see
that.
inside the
They're not
building.
windows, they're
Translucent panels.
Translucent panels.
translucent.
And if that saves an electricity cost for lighting, then yeah.
Will
I mean,
tremendously.
that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, so as long as we, I would like to have equipment suppliers.
No,
Yeah.
With
the,
that,
the existing building would be right here.
So there'll be a gap between the two buildings?
There's a gap between the two buildings.
And are we repurposing the old building for part of this project?
Yes, the clear well in the old building is staying, all of the, high transmission pumps are staying in that building. The
Strainer.
strainer will be in that building, as well as the ultraviolet, the final
The UV.
disinfectant
UV treatment, okay.
will be in the existing building.
The-
And that's where we're reusing some of the pipes that go in and out of that building will be repurposed for this new, so we don't have to put new penetrations into the building.
And that's gonna create all kinds of efficiencies along with cost savings. Right now, it's about an 18-month project to get water moving through the new plant. And then it could be up to 2 months to retrofit the old plant. And that's just because we have to keep that component, that piece of it running.
It has to work while we
It
build
has to
it.
work while we're building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my next question would be, the CMAR was brought on to reduce costs.
Yes.
So do you have a number of what you have reduced? I mean, we've talked about $28 million since day one. And this is, and I've said this before, this is part of my problem with this whole process, is we have, and it's not 100% not your fault. This is all government working incorrectly, is we have to design a plan, a number
Right.
for a plan. So we came up with the number $28 million. And then we go, let's find someone to build it. And they go, great, it's a budget of $28 million.
They, at 60%, they actually came in at 26 million.
Okay.
It was stayed at 28 million to cover the cost of the engineering.
Engineering. So how much have you, since we had, Dewberry had a rough estimate that they created.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much from their rough estimate you've brought costs up or down?
I didn't bring my value engineering sheet that we discussed at the last meeting. I don't think you were here.
I was not here at the last meeting.
We will have it at the next meeting.
Definitely have it at the next meeting, but I think we identified about 1.6 million of potential reductions, and that's going off an old memory.
Okay.
So,
And like
we
I said-
have identified several areas we can bring this down.
And 100% nothing against
it's
you.
no offense taken.
It's the way that this whole process goes. I mean, when the business I'm in, when I bid a job, I don't know what that customer wants to spend as a budget. I go and bid that job, and then they tell me you have the job or you don't have the job because you're too high.
Right.
This one, there's a pie in the sky number, and everyone's looking at it going, can I do it for that, or do I not even waste my time?
Right. Well, so when we put the 60% budget together, nobody knew anything. Nobody knew any numbers. So it was brought to me by the chief estimator, and we went through it line item by line item, not looking at a totals page. So that total that was sent to Jeff and Trey was about an hour old, meaning that's just where it just popped in there. Boom, that's where it was. There was no massaging. The entire budget is on an Excel spreadsheet that I'd be glad to send you. It's all there. I mean, it's there wasn't. It kind of surprised all of us. And I think Pat with Dewberry owes me a breakfast burrito and a beer.
Okay.
Because I did bring it in less than.
Did bring it in less?
Yeah.
Not to be a pain, can you please send that Excel to Jeff to have him distribute it?
The 60%
Sales
budget? Yeah, that's just that work breakdown structure in Excel.
And there'll be one at 90 also?
And you have the
Yeah, one at
same,
90
same
on that.
setup at 90.
So can we get that one on the 8th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the one I'd rather see. The 60% is
Okay.
60%.
Okay.
60%'s old. We want that
It's
to be
old.
true.
I hope it's old and it's high.
And it's that's
Yeah.
what we're hoping for too.
But we, at 60%, we had to make some assumptions. And along with the 60%, you'll see that the 90%, we listed all of our assumptions. We didn't see a pipe here, but we put it here because we think it should be there. And Dewberry goes, oh, okay, needs to be there or it doesn't. And here's why. So those things were budgeted for.
More budget, yeah.
Yeah.
I know no one wants to be here all night long, but I think this is just such an important thing to
No, those are good questions.
hit on.
Yeah, great questions.
I got two left. I know on your webpage, we're already up there for projects, upcoming projects for getting bid documents. Do you know how many local companies have pulled bid documents?
Not very many. I don't have an exact number. I was trying to figure that out earlier. That was our first solicitation. We took the town of Silt's, all the licensed contractors in the town of Silt, and we sent them bid documents first thing. And then it went out to the Western Slope Contractors Association, and then it's on the website. All the bid documents are there. So we're going to make sure we get coverage one way or the other, but town of Silt, the vicinity, Western Slope, that's our goal.
So everyone had an opportunity.
They had an opportunity
to bid on the project, yeah.
Quite honestly, I've heard from several between probably gypsum and parachute that, hey, appreciate it. What's your timeline? Send us a schedule. That's on the website. And we don't know if we can do it.
Right.
Can you keep us in mind moving down the road? Because it is. I mean, we're asking for 6 months. We may be moving dirt after the first of the year. That's our goal. But we're holding bids for 90 days, and a lot of subcontractors don't want to do that.
Yeah. And it is a large project that a lot of local contractors, it's beyond their capabilities to even complete.
It is, but I think we've talked internally, and we've moving forward. Once we get through the initial 90% bid process, then we can go out and break it into smaller packages if we didn't get coverage. So, say concrete, we can do a site work package. We can do just a concrete structural package. There's a lot of different ways to bring it up, bring it down.
Just bring it in smaller pieces.
Bring it together.
Okay. And then how much do you guys do in-house? Are you guys a GC without in-house? Or, do you guys have your own concrete?
We are a self-performed contractor.
Okay.
It's in the contract documents that we have to compete for the work, and that's our goal. Our goal actually is, because there's not a lot of work on here, like the metal building, that's a big piece. That's not something we'll do. We could do the concrete, but you've got Rodco 5 miles that way, and you've got S2M 5 miles this way. There's a lot of qualified contractors. That's just two. And they could do it faster than we could. So there's a lot of efficiencies going local, for sure.
Okay.
Could we do it? Yes, we could. Are we prepared to? Yep. But our first goal is to get it for the right price from some qualified contractors.
Are you guys, or maybe Trey, are you integrating any solar in this building at all?
No.
I'm just curious. I didn't know if you were.
Just the translucent panels.
Yep.
I didn't know.
There's your solar.
We just adopted the 2018 energy codes, and some of those require rough end for solar. I believe that's one of the new codes, is if you're going to build a new building, you have to prep for future solar.
Was that in that one, or was that in the next one
I
up?
think so.
I thought it was the next one.
21.
Is that
Is it
21?
I thought that was in the 21.
We'll double check.
Yeah, because we were holding
Because
off.
it's also-
We adopted 18, so we didn't have to go into the
Go
21.
into 21?
Right.
But it may also be an occupancy.
The occupancy thing, yeah.
So I think we're H4,
Okay.
so, or H3.
Okay.
But
So it may not-
the architect is on top of
On
it.
top of that, okay.
Yeah, he's telling me what we can't do.
We take out half those translucent panels. Just ask.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Flashlights for Jerry's team.
Now, batteries are expensive. We don't want to do flashlights.
Yes, they are.
That's everything I have at this
Yeah,
current
well,
time.
my question will go back to cost. As far as tap fees, what is the, like, average number of tap fees we issue each year? Do we have that information, just in comparison to what we did maybe in 2019, 2021? Because if pricing is in direct association to what those tap fees are, it is important to look at, you know, if we are way above those numbers on average, or if we should really be expecting a possible rate increase to our customers if we do go forward under the current determinations of the proposal.
Good question. Jim, do you have that in your data?
I do not have historical tap fee information, but what I can tell you is that of the numbers that we're including for tap fee revenue, to maintain the minimum coverage for the the SRF program, we have to make sure that you at least get 50% of the tap fees that we're anticipating.
Which was 60.
First couple of years, we're assuming that there's going to be 60 units a year. You really need to make sure at least 30 are coming in.
So what you're saying is if we had half of the expected, we'll still be covering our debts or with the rate without having to raise the rates
Correct.
in addition to the other. That's good to know.
An increase of, instead of 10, 12,000 rate increase for tap fees. That
Yeah,
was
we
in there as
should-
well.
We should raise it to 12.5, right?
Correct. 12,000,
12,000.
just over.
Yeah, but keep in mind, we raise them too high, people go elsewhere.
Are they just gonna pass it on to the buyer?
So
Yeah,
can we
it depends
Wow.
if you're
It
building a house
depends,
for
yeah.
yourself,
find
there's
out,
no buyer to pass it on to.
Jeff, like how many tap fees we do on average a year?
You wouldn't do that to yourself.
Just wanna know, I'm pretty sure we are way above, like, yeah.
So I can tell you in 2022, we had $442,000 worth of tap fees. In 2021, we had $673,000 worth of tap fees. And these are just water tap fees. If you would just double that for wastewater because we have one line for water taps and then one line for wastewater taps.
That's positive, that's a number I wanted to hear, like a much
Okay.
higher
Yeah,
number
that's a
than
good
what
chunk
is
of change.
expected.
So you have to back that out per unit though, when we were at 9,000 for tap fees. So we're talking 40 and 60 those years. Which seems like a lot more than what we actually sell.
You also did allow painted pastures to prepay.
Yeah, Painted Pastures prepaid for
2023.
a chunk of there, yeah. So,
So when we are making those agreements with new developers, we really need to be looking into.
the agreement is our tap fee is this much, and if you want it billed here, then that's what it
There you
costs
go.
you.
Yeah.
No more prepayment.
And if you want to complain, you pay more.
Yeah. 10% complaint fee.
So for me, some takeaways for tonight is I got estimated a good, almost not guaranteed, but an estimated rate for citizens is 105.77 cents. And then I got September 9th for 90% built out. And then I got September 11th for a yay or nay. And then we did get the loan approval.
Yes.
If we do want it on September 11th. And then our loan forgiveness is set in stone at $9,395,000. And grants, with grants?
The forgiveness is 8.645, and then
8.6.
we have $750,000 in grants,
Grants.
but they operate the same as it relates to.
So basically $9 million
reducing
in savings.
But
just over $9 million in
the
savings.
forgiveness is not gonna go down. That's.
Not
we're good.
on this
So
application.
we're good on this application.
And that's good for this application. If we elect to go to the January application or sometime down the road, nobody really knows.
Right.
I mean, whether they keep this,
Is this 105, that's worst case scenario? Because we cannot go up on the loan at all with the state. So what you saw tonight is basically worst case scenario of what would happen.
So if we find some more savings.
Right.
It may go down.
We're all trying.
Wink, wink.
Crossing our fingers.
We're still looking.
And to answer a question you had earlier, Mayor, I think I saw like $180 water bill up in Glenwood. So,
I know our neighbors are higher, but we just keep saying they're higher.
You're saying they're higher, but we don't have a
We
number.
don't have a
on it.
number, so it's
I'll
hard to.
bring the bill. My
Yeah.
wife would love to bring it.
I have Glenwood's water rates here if anybody's interested.
I had a $200 water bill last month.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends in Rifle that talk about $300 water bills in the summertime because they're paying to irrigate their,
Yep.
they
Paying
don't
to
have
irrigate, yeah.
our irrigation system. So our water rates are not going to be bad. It's just the demographic that lives here is who it's going to most affect. I mean, we are a lower income city compared to our neighbors, and we have to be cognizant of that.
Exactly.
I have one question that might be for Administrator Lehman or Jim Mann. If for some strange reason Congress decides they are going to make a budget and that money comes through after September 11th, we can't then, through the SRF, apply that to loan forgiveness, can we?
if it happens before September 29th, we can reduce the loan. Well, I wouldn't go that far. Because I think there's gonna be so many i's to dot and t's to cross that there's just no way we would get.
It's not like
they
when they
could
pass the
call us
budget, they're writing us a
tomorrow and
check the
say,
next day.
Right.
right,
So if we get that money afterwards and we can't use it for principal forgiveness, would we at that point, would that money go to, do we have to give up that money? Does that money go to,
well, the way, well, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish your
does it
question.
go to wastewater? Or not wastewater, but our water fund? Or does it go to the general fund?
Distribution system?
Well, the 1.7 can't be used for the water plant, so we'd have to use it on something else. Isn't that what your report says?
Oh,
Yeah, from Congresswoman Boebert. It said that 1.7.
right, there's a lot that's changed since I
Yeah.
wrote that.
Okay. I was just going by, yeah, we had to use that on something else, like a water tank or something.
Right. I believe it's just the opposite, Chris. I think that the senator's earmark was identified for a very specific part of the
Okay.
project. I think
Yes.
we had it in there for some.
The senators earmarks, they wanted a specific part of the project. And I believe that was for one of the ballast and flock trains. Or both of them, I can't remember.
Should be both of them.
Yeah, that's right, both of them. And for the representative, they originally told us to go for it all, so we submitted 28 million for the whole plant.
So what, they went down to 1.7, which we weren't surprised. But it's for the whole plant, it's not specific to anything.
So it's,
Okay.
it
For the
is,
project.
it is possible that, you know, if the EPA and the SRF are able to reconcile some of the differences in their processes, you know, we're not gonna give up on it. But I would, it's nowhere near, in fact, I would discourage you from thinking that money's coming in. I think it'll be a windfall if it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think it's coming in, but I just wondered if it does, if it magically shows up in the mail, what are our options to do with
It's
it?
not gonna magically show up. There's gonna be a lot of work associated with making it happen. And I can tell you, we're gonna do it, but I think give it, one thing the one thing that I was gonna tell you that I had forgotten earlier was that the CDS, the elected representatives, they reach into the SRF funds, those bill funds, and they pull money out of the state's pocket, and they give these earmarks. So that means that the states have less money to loan and then get repaid back for in the revolving fashion of these organizations. So they're not the state is not fond of this process, because it just means that I think I
That could be why they're
heard
designed to work diametrically opposed to each
50%
other.
of the money that they had anticipated going out in loans was taken for earmarks. So one of the ways that they're looking at clawing some of that back is, let's say a miracle happens and they give us $4 million in earmarks. The CDS or the SRF funds might be reduced by that amount, or by some proportion of that amount. Or they might monkey with the payback on the loans. I mean, you know, it's hard to know exactly what that is. There was some conversation early on where there might be a way to pay some of the interest, but we've learned, if it comes in later, but we've learned that's probably not really a thing. So I just wouldn't even.
We'll just anticipate it not showing up.
I'd kind of put it out of your minds.
Okay.
We've got $9 million, let's use it.
Let's use it, yes.
So the grant writer we hire her to help us with grants. So at what point do we keep her for just this project, or do we continue keeping her for future projects, or what point do we?
Thank you for bringing that up. I meant to mention that. It's in your memo. There is a $1 million EIAF grant that we've applied for the water plant. It's not expected to be announced until November, but I think it might be written in such a way that we might be able to use it. But we don't, again, and that would be state money, so that would be a lot easier. It's DOLA, so it'd be a lot easier for us to figure out how to use that. But again, I'm not counting those chickens either, because we haven't gotten the grant, for one thing. As far as Deborah continuing to use sustainable strategies for this project, we're not. But to look forward to other aspects of our water and wastewater operation, we can certainly use her assistance.
Okay.
And she brought that up, didn't she, when she was meeting with us previously, that we were so far along in the water plant project, that horse had left the barn, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that they could be utilized for the wastewater plant and other things, strategic initiatives that the town has.
Yes, and on the CDS, if we do get it, like the one, because it covered the whole project, we could use it to build a new storage tank. That was part of the original thought process on the project also, because we're gonna need one of them as the town grows.
Okay. All right.
Thank you,
I
Toby.
don't have any
for
questions.
answering tough questions.
Yeah.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
Been trying to bag on anyone.
We'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for
bet.
coming
Thank
down.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Toby.
Thank you.
Thanks, Toby.
Temporarily.
He's up next, yeah.
Back in the hot seat.
Have a good day.
Good night. All right, is there anything else on that, or is that our whole update presentation?
Oh, I did want to go over that timeline very briefly. You can read about it in your packet, but I think the biggest dates here are September 8th on that guaranteed maximum price submittal. And then on the 11th, when we'll schedule a vote. And then we'll start talking to Garney right away about starting the construction contract, because we don't have a construction contract with them at this point. And then we'll work to continue to find ways to reduce that loan by September 29th, and then and I believe the state issues that preliminary official statement during that week of October 6th, I think is a Friday, so that would be our last date that we could do anything with the loan number. They do have a process by which they issue two, or could issue two notices to proceed. One early, so for early procurement of a lot of this material, because there's from vendors, a lot of the equipment. I think Trey can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was one piece that has a 68-week lead time at this point.
Yes.
It's hard to know whether they'll pick up their pace of manufacturing or not, but that's one big thing. So we can get that started right away. And then you heard Toby say moving dirt after the first of the year. I'm saying first quarter of the year, trying to not get our expectations up but too much, but we certainly could be getting started fairly early in the year. So that's all I have.
Okay. This is just me thinking on this. On September 11th, when we have a discussion about proceeding with actually, I guess this would be, so what, well, no, because we have to do it that night, so. Trying to run this through my head. I think after we have all heard the number, I think it might be important, and since our attorney's here, for us to go into a executive session for the purpose of, I would say, for negotiating a contract. After we get that number, is that acceptable for us to do that?
You can, yes, we can go into executive session for purposes of you instructing your negotiators, Jeff and myself, for purposes of negotiating a contract, yes. It would perhaps be helpful to have some of the concerns you would like us to be prepared to help you discuss at that meeting, if you wanted to give us topics or things that we should be looking into between now and then.
Between now and then? My purpose would be, this is a large project that I think negotiating would be a good point for the town.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to have questions until we see the numbers on the 8th, for me at least. I'll have more tactics when I see the numbers, but until then, it's generally make it cheaper.
I can see, I can't imagine what would be negotiated at that point, after going throughout this whole process, what topics are, I don't get it, I guess I'm not seeing it. I'm all for it, but
When you buy a car, do you negotiate the price?
yeah, but we're being told what the price is.
We're being told what their price is.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know if we can, we can have that discussion with them in an open forum.
You can.
And this is the whole thing I hate about this entire water plant process, is it is so open. And the way it has to be done for the SRF is it takes every bit of negotiating power away from the municipality.
Mm-hmm.
And their theory, and again, I've never personally been involved in one of these CMAR processes, is that they believe that's more efficient and can result in more cost savings than the traditional. You do a design, and then you submit it out to the market of potential bidders, and you look for the best bid that you get back. I mean, that's what you do on a daily basis. That's consistent with what I'm historically used to. But apparently there are a number of municipalities who have gone through this CMAR process who have found it to be equal to or better than the old way of doing contracting.
I've done it both ways on big buildings. The CMR process is a little bit more it does go a little smoother and a little more efficient. But their bottom number is, when they come in with it, is pretty much in stone. They've done their diligence to get the bottom dollar. Where the conventional way, I think, there is some negotiating, but CMAR, what I've always worked with, when they come with that, that's pretty much, they've done their diligence for the bottom. They pretty much cut where they're gonna cut.
But we can have discussions.
The board decision, that's just my personal thing, is this whole process has been told to us what it's going to cost. We haven't ever got a chance to tell people what we are willing to pay.
And so it's not what we're willing, it's what we think we can pay. I
think definitely having a private conversation afterwards, negotiation, great idea.
Well, I feel like the water plant discussion, it needs to be as public as possible. I think we can be openly talking about, because people will appreciate our questions and how much we are challenging them. Maybe, I don't know, that's sincerely 100% how I feel.
But if we're talking about tactics, it does be happening in public.
What tactics necessarily, like realistically, because we are talking about how much we would really be willing to allow the increase to be for the customer. So we kind of backtracked on like, wow, that's too much of an increase. So we started kind of thinking, okay, how much would be a reasonable amount? So and they built this entire graphic of pricing, and with the grants they were able to put us like exactly kind of on that range that we are hoping for.
And that's my
part of the problem.
Biggest problem is the grants have put us where we're at. The CMAR at this point, I have not seen a number where they have done anything to get us to where we want to be. If this company has already put X number of hours into this project, and we're going to tell them we want you to do it for this much less, they have to weigh whether it's worth going to that number, or are they going to stick to their guns and potentially lose the job.
And I guess and this could be part of an executive session, but it's, how do we assess our capability to figure out where that dividing line might be?
I think that's when we look at their number, their 90% number, to see if they've done what we've asked them to. We've asked this company to reduce our building cost from a projection by Dewberry. If they've came in and reduced that cost by 3%, is that enough for us to go with them? Or are we looking at 5%? Or 7%? Or what's
It's hard
that?
to know what that number would be, because it could be that Dewberry just did a really good job of giving us a good value at the very beginning. There wasn't a lot of money to save. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not a water plant builder.
But we will get an Excel spreadsheet with
No, that's.
16,000 lines of information on it.
Yeah.
But there comes the point too, is why are we having, that's what we have Trey and Jeff to bring us them numbers that
they're
they've
in
done
those
their due
meetings.
diligence to get it down to. I'm trusting that that's what we're paying them for. When they come to us with that number, that they've cut that down to the bottom dollar.
I think the whole thing that got missed was that this should have went out to bid at the very beginning. And we could have got a price, we could have figured out what was actually reasonable between companies. Whereas we went with this company and went with their recommendations and.
Yeah, we
got
did
to
get
this
that
point.
second opinion from that company Dola hired too.
Dola's.
Yeah.
Which pretty much backed them up.
Right.
And this, to the degree I understand this, we weren't able, if we're gonna use state revolving fund loan money,
You can't put it up
we
for-
didn't have the
We
option
didn't have the option,
to
that's,
Right.
go bid it.
We had to go with qualifications, not money. That was
Right.
part of the requirement with the state.
and that's, we had to go with the requirement, not money, but when it comes down to every citizen that voted for us to be up here, the only thing that matters is money.
Yeah,
And I think Jeff and Trey have done a phenomenal job on this project. But have we ever hammered the company and said, no, that is not what we can pay?
Jeff and Trey are the only ones
Not-
that brought the price down so far on this.
Not-
on this building.
not in a public meeting like this, but we have, or at least I've been in meetings, we've looked at Garney and said no. Or we looked at Dewberry and said, there's gotta be a different option. So I mean, you don't see it, it's not in a public meeting, but them conversations have been happening. And we go to Dewberry and say, can we do this different? Is there a better way to do it, a cheaper way to do it? Why can't we do it this way? And also, we've done that with Garney especially after we got the 60% design. Up into that point, we were at 60, we were able to go through all the plans and make some changes. And now at 90, like he said, he was on addendum 4. And that's from all of us pouring through these plans, going, why are we doing it this way? Why can't we do it this way? Is there a cheaper way to do it? So why the public doesn't see it, you guys haven't seen it. There is that document, sorry we didn't have it, to show what we've taken out of this plant and what Garney's been able to cut out of the plant.
Yeah, the
And you will
architect
have it on Monday.
Architect didn't really like us in the kickoff meeting when we said, we're bare bones here. This
Yeah.
is, we're not doing arched windows, was our message. And that snow thing, it's a south-facing building, let the sun melt it off. You don't need,
Yeah, we had some major discussions on that as well.
Yeah, let it slide south into
Right.
the.
So we have,
I think I might have lost that argument.
So do you confidently feel, Trey, that Garney is going to give us 100% best number that they could pull out?
yes. In talking to people that have worked with them before in this process and in being in all the meetings with Toby especially because he lives in the area and I always get his name wrong. I want to say Jason, but Jared. It's Jared, not Jason. In all their meetings, they are working their suppliers because Toby came back with a number on one thing and he goes, I don't think this is right. We can get it cheaper. And he went back to a couple of other suppliers and got us a better number. So they are working for us and they know they work for us. We don't let them forget that. So they have been, and I think when we get this number on September 8th, I think they're going to have it cut about as far as they can go. And we'll have that opportunity until, what is it, October? No, September 29th. Too many dates. I'm getting them confused. To go through that 90% number and say, no, we don't need this, let's do it this way, or whatever. So the goal is to keep dwindling that number even after the number you see on the 8th.
So what you're proposing, Mr. Mayor, is that after they have the number, we potentially do an executive session for discussing a possible negotiation point where we wouldn't get hurt by just asking them if they would go down a percentage or an amount? Is that where
I think
possibly we're
it's
trying
this
to get?
board's job to do the best for our citizens. And if we feel that staff has done the best that they can, maybe we don't need it. But I think it's important for us to go into an executive session where we can discuss the actual number and see if it's something that we're comfortable with.
And you have the legal right to do that.
I think it's worthwhile, even if it's just
Even
questions.
if it's just a
5 minutes.
Yeah,
5 to 10 minute,
How about those
or it
Rockies?
could be
You know what I
45
mean?
minutes. You can't talk about something else other than the meeting.
Yeah.
No football talk, no
Yeah.
baseball
Yeah.
talk.
Stick with it.
Yes,
But
under,
Stay on topic.
under this context, I definitely think would be viable, absolutely.
I know most of you work, but I will be here all day Monday going through that spreadsheet you're talking about line by line. So if anybody wants to come in and talk about it or has a question, Monday the 11th, that's probably the only thing I'm going to be working on, is going through that. And if, like last time, they actually got us the number early Friday morning. So we had most of Friday afternoon to go through it too.
Oh, good.
So if you have any questions or if you want to come in and go through it with me, I'll be happy to come in here and print it out and we can go through it if you want to before the meeting.
Starting with that.
Up to you, because I know that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, I'm all for reducing costs, but I don't want to see us, cut, like employee safety things just to save money. So.
No, and I don't want to see, I don't want to, and I know I talk about how, get rid of the archway windows and all that. I completely understand having a nice facility for our staff to work in for recruitment and retention, because that's just as important. But I hate fluff in government jobs. And that's it, and it's caused a huge issue in construction of a government job comes up and subcontractors already mark it up more than they would in the free market. I've talked to surveyors that say if it's a government job, it's 3 times the cost
I see your
to
point,
drive out
yes.
there
Yes.
than it is because of all the hoops that they have to jump through. And that's, we're a small town, and we're probably not going to change the whole scheme of things in the way government construction happens. But I think we need to do our best to change the way the
We can
government
kick and
construction.
scream along the way.
Mayor, it's my understanding that when you have a CMAR, he's got relationships with a lot of these contractors, subcontractors, and suppliers. If they want to do business with him again, they need to place some ball there. I don't know how that works, but that's part of what makes the CMAR process effective.
I still think it comes down to it's a government job, so they know the money is guaranteed versus a private enterprise building a metal building.
Well, if you can figure out that one out.
The top number.
The cost to build a roundabout or to extend our ramp is way more than what it'd be cost to get that much of an asphalt driveway laid in your house.
Yeah, I agree with you on some of that. I've done a lot of government fire stations and stuff with FCI and stuff like that. And I've went through the numbers like Trey has, and they're really in a different markup than if they were building it for a public person. I mean, because they want it, like Jeff said, they want to come back. If they want to work again, they're going to keep that cost down. I truly believe that in my years.
Trey will be working Monday looking at that spreadsheet, and I will be looking at it Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah,
I'm hoping to look at it Friday. I'm hoping we get it early Friday and we can start through it.
Spreadsheet parties all weekend.
All weekend.
And I'm kind of fine with it in an open meeting, because
Yeah.
where's, you know.
And that's the
And who's gonna hear it?
The problem with this whole process. Show your hand.
Well, Garney will
and
see
then
it.
play. And then play, yeah. But no, thank you to staff. Thank you for everybody involved in this process.
Yeah,
It's
for
just
sure.
such a important decision to make.
Monumental.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big deal, but your dedication to your constituents is admirable too. I mean, you guys have really,
Yeah.
told us to whittle it down as much as we can, and we heard you loud and clear. So,
Okay.
short of doing it ourselves.
Trey?
What do you think, Trey? I got a shovel somewhere.
I got a shovel. Yeah.
I got a backup.
We know a plumber.
Yeah.
It's all pipe. Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, it's the scale of the project.
It's just bigger. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that topic? Okay. Next up then would be resolution number 22, series 2023, a resolution of the Board of Trustees acting by and through its water and wastewater activity enterprise, approving the loan agreement between the Colorado Water Resource and Power Development Authority and the Town of Silt, Colorado, and governmental agency bond of to evidence such loan for the purpose of water utility improvements. And I will turn this over to Jeff Lehman and Jim Mann.
So this resolution is to accept the conditions of the loan, which one of the conditions is that it's 100% forgivable on closing, and there's no repayment. So unless you have something to add, or Jim, Dan, if you've got something to add.
Most unique, it contemplates issuing a bond that then immediately gets forgiven. It's
And remember
bizarre.
that the reason for this is because we were identified early on as a disadvantaged community. Somebody a woman in Dola, who you'll recall we were sort of borderline, and she, was able to articulate that some of those numbers were not as solid as what the SRF would like to see. And so she took it to the board and wrote a business case to back us up as a disadvantaged community, and that's where this money came from. Jim, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not.
You must be ready to go to bed.
All right. Discussion or motion?
Well, I have a question. So, when does this close? So if let's just say, we don't say yes on. I'm not saying we are. I'm just saying, let's just say we don't say yes on the 11th. Does this? And if we close, see what I'm saying? So if we don't close on the other loan, does this have to be repaid back? Is there any penalty? Yeah, I guess is my question. If we don't do the other.
They're independent.
It's two separate things. This one just pays for that stuff, so.
I just wanted to make sure.
No, it's a good
that-
question.
Yeah. We wouldn't be on the hook for this if.
I have no problem applying for a $300,000 loan that we're gonna get forgiven immediately.
Yeah.
I do like the loan repayment schedule. It's
Yes.
blank.
Can I get that on my house?
That's all I had.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve resolution number 22, series of 2023 as presented.
Second.
All right. Motion by trustee Poston to approve resolution number 22, series 2023. Seconded by trustee Brittenall. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. July 2023 financial report. Turn this over to Treasurer Tucker.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is for the month of July. 58% of the year has gone by. We are doing well with our sales tax. We're at 67.2%, use tax as 69.8%. So we're ahead with both of those. We're right on track with our trash service fees, our water and wastewater service fees, and our irrigation service fees. Our revenues in the general fund, the conservation trust fund, and the economic development revolving fund are above where we thought we would be at this time. And the only funds, the park impact and the construction impact, and the conservation trust fund are expenditures. Goodness, my brain wasn't working. Our expenditures are higher than we had anticipated at this time for the year. And I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Numbers look great.
No, thank you, Treasurer Tucker.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is administrator and staff comments.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Trey?
I'm good.
Any
You guys
other,
both talked enough this evening.
any other staff members on the meeting with us have anything to speak to? Okay. Updates from the board and board comments. We'll start with Trustee Poston.
I just want to say thank you one more time to town administrator and staff on putting together and achieving those grants that were so important for our town. And those came in at really good, large numbers, and you can just imagine how much physical and technical work it went into, and it's seen and it's appreciated. And I just wanted to take the time to thank you all for that.
Trustee Flores?
Thank you to staff for the concert series. I went to the last one, and it was a pretty good band. And then thank you guys for your hard work on this project, water project. That's it.
Okay. Trustee Britnell?
Just like to thank town staff for all the great, big work on Hay Days weekend. We had a great time, really successful. Thanks for the work on the horseshoe pits. We had 18 teams, so we had 36 people pitching horseshoes up there for the tournament. We had people from Gypsum, Eagle, a couple of people from Kremlin came down, so it was pretty well received. Had a guy from the Colorado Horseshoe Pitching Association that is out of Boulder. He was out of Boulder. Came down to do some measurements and stuff. We got some fine tuning we need to do to get him certified for certified tournaments, but everybody's really impressed with what we got going down there so far.
Nice. Trustee Clausen?
I have a couple questions, and I guess I should ask this at staff comments. The sewer line between 8th and 9th, what's going on there? Because I've seen that alley, the one that was going to be replaced with the Main Street project.
Yes, it's still going. They're hoping to start in the next week or so.
Oh, okay. So I just saw the alley was closed. I didn't know.
Yeah, they should be starting. They were doing some potholing,
Uh-huh.
finding services and
Oh,
things
okay.
like that. But that project should be starting here in the next week.
All right, cool. I guess Main Street Plaza. I don't know if Nicole's around to answer the question, but I noticed that they're saying, coming soon. So is that, or if anybody could answer that. Main Street Plaza, which is kind of between Highway 6 and Home Avenue. I see big signs saying, coming soon, and they're advertising new townhomes and everything in there.
I don't know where they are in that process. But I'll find out. It's.
Okay.
Nicole's trying to get unmuted.
Oh, here is she on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was locked out there for a second. They are not quite to giving us what we need to go under their site plan review. So they still have land use and then building permits to get through.
Okay. All right.
But a new owner purchased it and is excited about letting everybody know that he is looking to continue the development that was previously proposed there.
Okay, all right, thanks. Yeah, I just happened to drive by, saw this big old sign saying coming soon, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. So,
Yes.
all right, well, thank you.
Thanks for saving me, Nicole.
Yeah. My phone was not, it was like, Post is not going to allow you to unmute. I was like, oh, that's different.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Nicole. And just my thoughts, on the gazebo rebuild, someday. I don't know if there's companies that make prefab gazebos to where, just crane the thing in just to make the whole process
There
go
are, and
faster.
we're looking at them.
Oh, okay, nice, cool. Just to make that process, go a little faster. And I guess speeding. I guess I'm going to be the one to tackle speeding. If there's any way we could budget for, put some speed tables in town, because it seems like, they're bigger than a speed bump. Because yes, I know speed bumps won't work because of the snow plows and everything like that. But if you did a speed table, it would maybe slow people down, just because the cops can't be everywhere, to enforce every street, and like even 7th Street, where I live, as soon as they get to that stop sign at 7th and Grand, they punch it, because they're on the way to Silt Mesa or wherever they're going, and it just seems like somewhere along 7th Street, I mean, there's other streets too that all have problems, but it seems like 7th Street, there are more people, and I don't necessarily think it's the people that live in town. I think it's the people that live in the county that are just trying to get out of town, and they just fly up that road. So if there's any way we could, put in the budget, some speed tables somewhere, and basically, speed tables like a really wide speed bump, to where snow plows can go over it and stuff like that without taking them off.
Similar like what's in Midland and Glenwood.
Exactly, yes, something like that, and just put them, in strategic places throughout town, just to kind of help, control this problem.
Well, we were asked to establish an agenda item for a meeting soon, so we'll bring all that up and talk about it.
Yeah. All right, and I guess the entrance to Autumn Ridge, do they still have any more? I mean, the concrete part looks good, and I know last meeting it was discussed, they needed to add 3 feet and everything. But it almost seems like the asphalt around that just is a little, it just seems wavy. And on that west side there where you come up with the bike path, all of a sudden you have an abrupt, one of these to the entrance, rather than a more gradual, incline to it, because I'm thinking, if somebody's out in a wheelchair, they might have issues with that bump in the path. So I guess that's
We'll take another look at that.
Trey's making a note.
Yeah.
That inspection was disapproved last week, and they are redoing that so that is a smoother transition.
Oh, good.
Thanks again, Nicole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for bailing me out.
That's what I get for being on vacation.
Well, thanks, Nicole. Yes, appreciate it. And that's all I have tonight, other than, thanks town staff for helping out at Heydays, and, good job on all the work that you've done for the water plant, and, all the work everybody's done. So good job, town staff. Thank you all, and that's all my comments.
All right, Trustee Seifert.
So I want to make a comment. I guess I want to kind of, the board here, we're talking a $28 million project. Tonight we had 7 different people here. We had 7 different opinions, but nobody, everybody respects everybody's opinion. I appreciate that. I mean, nobody made an opinion and somebody, well, that was crazy, whatever. It takes a board to work together to do this $28 million project without being at each other's throat, having arguments or whatever. So I just want to thank the board. We're getting along pretty good, and we're about to the end maybe, but we're working well. And I appreciate everybody respecting everybody else's opinions, whether you agree with them or not. Nobody is, saying anything against it. So everybody's got their own opinion, and that's the way it should be. That's why you have a board.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Hanahan.
Quick question for Trey. Where are we at with the carrier neutral location? What's the status of that?
Before I went on vacation last week, they sent me plans for approval on the site location and the building itself. I think they are to the point where they're almost at 100%, and they'll be submitting them to Nicole for building permits and such. And it sounds like Excel's got the gas over to where it's gonna go for the generator. And I believe they've almost got the line ran all the way up 8th. And I think they were waiting on a CDOT approval to hang on the bridge coming across the railroad, so they wouldn't have to bore under the railroad.
I noticed I've been getting a lot of mailers from private internet companies, and I noticed just last week that Xfinity added a whole new speed of service. I'm wondering if the word's getting out that a lot of these communities out our way are looking at municipal broadband seriously, and they're proactively improving and increasing their service in expectation that there's going to be flight. So that's good to know. Thank you. The other thing I had was a quick comment. Welcome back, Attorney Sawyer. It's good to have you back. We missed you while you were gone, and good to see you in the chair again. A little scruffy.
Yes.
A little Grizzly Adams going on there. You'll clean that up, I'm sure. It's good to have you back. That's it?
That's it? I got nothing. We'll leave it at that. It is 9:30. We do have an executive session if we'd like to do it tonight. We think we can pound through it? Or do we want?
And I would be fine with putting it off another meeting.
We'll see how the September 11th meeting
Trustees,
goes.
Seifert.
Wait till that meeting.
Don't
Just throwing it out there.
Don't scare him, Justin.
Concern about it and earlier, and
Yeah, it's
I
pretty late
think
for me.
it is pretty late, and I know people have things to do, and I want you to be really fresh for this, okay? I
So-
want good feedback.
So the next meeting is probably going to be a jam-packed agenda also. The September 11th?
I have one somewhere.
But we'll be talking about a lot of money that night, so you may not want us talking about that evening.
I mean, putting it off isn't gonna make your paycheck one way or another, so.
Right, I'm fine.
So if we have to postpone it to the 25th, is that going to be a,
25th agenda right now is fairly light,
okay,
right now.
right now?
Okay,
Yeah, but I haven't got my hands on it yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's nothing on it yet.
Keep in mind, we're gonna be doing.
Yeah, there's nothing on that.
My agenda.
At all.
We'll keep his hands off of it.
oh,
So then do we need to make a motion to postpone that or continue that?
No, you just put that on the agenda when you're ready to have it.
Okay.
We did this last time. We didn't have to because we never went into it.
Yeah, we went into it.
Yeah.
Then we started to go into it, but then we never did anything, so
Yeah.
we just didn't do it.
It's
so
not,
move it to,
it's not a public
It's
hearing.
not a public
just an
hearing. Okay.
agenda item.
move it till September 25th then?
Yeah,
We'll look at those next
those
two.
next
and
two meetings.
Yeah, something like that,
I
okay.
suspect it'll be the 20th.
That'll work.
Okay. Without further ado, the next item on the agenda would be adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adjourn.
We should all say that someday.
We have a second.
I don't care.
Second.
All right. Motion by trustee Seifert to adjourn the meeting. Second by trustee Flores. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed?
I just want to make sure we're.
Motion carries unanimously.
Got a clear idea.